So the other piece of my job was, some of these workflows and activities were directly attributing to HBO Go. So I was there at the beginning of the HBO Go launch.
What year was this?
Maybe 2010 or something like that, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
We were the first broadcaster, I believe, HBO, to kind of have a streaming service.
Yeah.
Right? So there was Netflix, obviously, but none of the other broadcasters had tried to do this. We were the first ones to take that step.
Okay, guys, welcome back. Tech jobs are amazing because obviously you can make a lot of money and sometimes you get to do really cool stuff. This guy has done a little bit of both of those things. So if you've ever streamed The Sopranos, White Lotus, Yellowstone, what is it, 1893 or whatever?
1923.
1923. What else did they have over there?
What else is on right now? I watch all the services. I confused myself.
Yeah. Well, so if you watched any of those shows over streaming, then likely this guy was a part of your life. You just didn't know it. So happy to welcome John Narus to the show. John, welcome.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah. So let's, I think a lot of people kind of are interested in careers similar to what you have created. So I want to talk about how you kind of got started. And, I want to talk about, obviously, a lot about HBO and Paramount Plus that you're working on now. So how'd you kind of get into this, it's like software product field?
Right. So, I did study technology and media at the university level, and always had a passion for media, both film, TV, music. Initially wanted to really go into the music industry. And this is like late 90s, 2000, where Napster was blowing everything up. Yeah. So the entire industry was being shaken up. So I did start my career in media technology in the audio space, in the music space in Nashville.
What were we doing there?
So I'm working on Music Row, which is the place to be if you're working in music.
Sure.
And I was working for a promotional company. So we were recording all of content to promote upcoming albums for artists, highly country music focused, obviously, in Nashville. So we would do live interviews like this. We would do live performances. We would do all the stuff you hear on the radio, promotion-wise, both audio and video content, kind of like a package for the artist, like how are you going to promote your upcoming album to promote sales. So I was doing audio engineering, recording pieces of it, cutting up the audio and the video, transcoding it, early ages of transcoding, sending a lot of CDs at that time to different affiliates and stuff across Northern America, but also providing streams, early on streams online.
Oh.
And because I, at the university level, studied software engineering, audio video engineering, immediately the CEO was like, can you help us with the website?
Wow.
Right? Can you maintain the website, build out the website, do other technology things that were at its infancy with content early on. So I started there, and at some point I was like, you know what, not really into country music. I want to pursue music further. It's either New York or LA.
Yeah.
Right? So I was like, all right, I want to go to New York. So I started calling up studios, like any job opportunities. They're like, hey kid,
yeah, no.
Once you move to New York City, look me up.
Right.
Got a deal. Like closed doors everywhere. So I'm just going to move to New York City without a job. And then, again, started looking. Again, Napster blowing everything up. Also technology really advancing where people are starting to do stuff in home studios. So big studios were losing opportunity there. Again, my technology background, I found a job offer for a media company, like an independent studio. And because I had that audio video engineering background plus systems development piece of it, they're like, hey, we need someone to maintain our network, our servers, our infrastructure, but also support the production piece of our business, all the cameras, and our post-production business. So like all the editing suites and all that, our network room. So that's how I got into that next, while still on the side doing stuff here and there for production, TV, music, kind of went back and forth a little bit between music. For a while, then I stumbled on another company, and their forte was we can we can recover media or data from any form of media ever invented. So like all the way back to early film, wire recordings, on cylinder recordings, Edison cylinder recordings.
How did they do that?
Well, one, acquiring old technology, reverse engineering some of it, repairing it. So, there's definitely like a hardware component to it. But there's no systems to read some of that. So then kind of reverse engineering, kind of like, how do you read the data off of some of those platforms to get it into the computer?
Wow.
Right. And then quickly, the CEO wanted to shift for personal interests in the government sector. Huh. So we were servicing like companies that had huge archives. Coca-Cola, obviously, they've been in business before the 1900s, so they had large archives.
Yeah.
Our national archives, right? So a lot of big corporate entities, universities, public institutions, enormous archives. They need to preserve those, keep those going, right? You have to move from one format to another as time goes on, obsolete formats, and then also transcoding and providing it to the public so they can get access to it, right? So I shifted to the government sector, and where the government sector came into play is really at wartime. This is like when the conflict with Iraq and Afghanistan was going on. So the government goes in, and blows up data centers. It's like one of the strategies. For intel purposes.
Yeah.
We're gonna blow up a data center, recover whatever we can, try to get intel to inform what next decisioning is to try to figure out what's going on. So our specialty would be to get that material that was blown up, rebuild it, and then try to transfer it, give it over to analysts on the government so they can get some intel.
So that's so that you guys were recovering destroyed data centers?
Yeah, so a mix of stuff so some stuff was physically damaged that we'd have to try to rebuild or reassemble. And then other pieces of it, they would go in and get clean hard drives and a lot of outdated formats.
Yeah.
You can imagine in the Middle East, outside the United States, stuff going back 20, 30 years or so. So again, trying to reverse engineer, like how do we read formats that no one hasn't touched in 40 years?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. And then at what point do you make the transition over to Sony?
So from there, I wanted to move on because I really didn't want my career path going down this government sector path. So got an opportunity through networking for a video engineering job at Sony Music, right? So Sony Music, one of the, at the time, 4 or 5 big labels, but they owned a lot of other labels, subsidiaries, like maybe 50 other subsidiaries or something like that. So I was actually part of their supply chain. So they brought me in like, okay, we're going to receive content assets from our subsidiaries, and we need to ingest that into our systems, track it with metadata, be able to archive it, and then transcode it and deliver it to like Apple's and the Vimeos. So I was actually working in a video capacity, but for a music label.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what was it like working there? You were in New York for this?
Yeah. I was in New York City. Very unique company because it is a Japanese-owned company, so run very differently than some of the other.
What were some of the cultural
run for?
What were some of the cultural things?
You don't necessarily have that visibility, I would say, where you can connect really strategy, like executive vision, to what you're doing. It's kind of like, okay, day to day, this is kind of what you're doing, but you don't get that bigger picture. And maybe some of that's evolved over time. Like the companies I've worked more recently, like if there's a big push for, on the ground, every employee to understand, like, what is the strategy?
Yeah.
Right? What's the executive vision? Because everyone needs to make day-to-day decisions, right? So if you don't understand what the bigger picture is, you can't make your day-to-day decisions if it's in line with, corporate strategy and executive vision. Yeah.
Was there any of the Japanese culture bleed over to the workplace here? Like when I was in Japan, they say just like every day as like a young, person working in some of these companies, you're expected to just like go out with the boss and just get annihilated.
Right.
Was there any of that culture that came over?
Well, the hierarchical thing was definitely there, right? You were expected to only communicate up the chain through your manager, right? As opposed to here, it's kind of like open door policies. Like if you want to go to the CTO, you can Slack the CTO, right? There's open office hours. You can approach the CTO. There's a lot of ways in America now to get that direct connection to anyone in the organization. The hierarchical thing was there. I mean, it's also media as opposed to Sony Electronics.
Sure.
Right. So there was a bar,
Okay.
in the office. So 5 o'clock
Oh,
for
wow.
sure, drinking was a thing.
Wow.
So I don't know if that bled over from Japan or,
Yeah, I'm sure
part of
it
being
did.
part of media.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So at what point do you, okay, so now you're in the video. What point do you make the jump from there?
Sure. So I got, there were actually several recruiters that approached management at Sony and said, "Hey, do you know anyone?" So there was a initial hit at HBO. We need someone to run all of our media archives and our metadata taxonomy strategy. So I went through that interview process and I went up through the chief digital officer, very extensive interview process. And she's like, "I don't get the sense that you're really enthusiastic about this," right? Because I had that archival background, but I wasn't enthusiastic, And I'm like, you know what? Even though this is like a great opportunity, it's like a great title, great rank, I don't want to go this direction.
Yeah.
So I passed. Then like several months later, again, like another HBO job opportunity came up, and it was kind of a weird title, senior business analyst, but it was a cool description. Like, hey, we need to transform all of our operations, everywhere from production, where we're recording, how we get content into the offices, how we program, how we do licensing, how we get that content out to the end consumer on TV. And we need someone to come in and look at end to end, how we do everything and transform our business and automate and bring us to the digital age.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Right. So even though it was kind of stepped down from me being CTO previously at the media company in the government sector, it was a cool opportunity.
Yeah.
And I have fond memories. I didn't have cable growing up, but my aunt and uncle did. And I remember a very early age, who knows, 4 or 5, just sitting in front of HBO.
Yeah.
And just like binge watching HBO after HBO, Fraggle Rock and,
Oh, yeah.
Creep Show and all those. So I knew it was pretty good. And actually, before I joined Sony, I came up with a short list. I was like, what do I want to do? I just got my MBA in technology management, right? Where do I want to do next? And I was like, what are the top companies? So I came up with like a top 10 companies. So like number 1 was HBO. Number 2 was Showtime. So I knew like, this is where I want to be. Because I thought like a company that makes this content that's so amazing must be doing something right behind the scenes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So I joined as the senior business analyst / project manager. And I was basically helping define requirements. At that point, there wasn't necessarily clearly defined line between product owners. Like, there wasn't very common product owners at that point.
Yeah.
Maybe a slew in Silicon Valley, but it really wasn't commonplace in New York City. So senior business analyst was like, meet with the business, understand business and customer needs, come up with requirements on paper that translate the business need to development, and then manage the project from ideation to delivery.
And who were the stakeholders you were specifically dealing with?
Got it. So because I was in this deep digital end-to-end initiative, I got to meet with every business unit, because every business unit is part of it, right? So everything from legal to finance, to programming, acquisition, the studio people, cutting, post-production, all the promotional people, creating all the marketing collateral, marketing department, of course, creative services, right? So I was embedded within the software development organization, but all those business units had some sort of stake in operations of the company.
Yeah. What's up, guys? Hope you're enjoying the episode. Real quick, I just want to let you know, we now have the Tech Career Accelerator for anyone that watches. We're going to get you a job via updating your LinkedIn, fixing your resume, running you through mock interviews, and I work with you until you get hired. So it is 100% success rate. Check it out, link below. Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay. So started BA/PM, and then how do you evolve into more of a pure product role?
Got it. So I was operating really as a product owner, again, because I'm the one working with engineering and development. I'm defining the requirements, talking through the requirements, right? Working with design as well. And then I had a personal reason to move to Florida, just to be with family. So my wife and I decided, like, okay, we want to both lift our jobs from New York City to move to Florida. And at that point, we were both working with our ideal companies, right? How do you move 2 jobs at once? Not really easy.
Yeah.
she had a major footprint for her company already in Miami. So she was able to transition into a new role relatively quickly. HBO really wasn't doing anything digital or direct to consumer, really internationally. So the other piece of my job was, some of these workflows and activities were directly attributing to HBO Go. So I was there at the beginning of the HBO Go launch.
What year was this?
Maybe 2010 or something like that, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
And we were the first broadcaster, I believe, HBO, to kind of have a streaming service.
Yeah.
Right. So there was Netflix, obviously, but none of the other broadcasters had tried to do this. We were the first ones to take that step. So I got wind from a consultant working in Miami for HBO Latin America that they wanted to, they talked to the SVP of software engineering saying, hey, we want to launch digital business. We know you have a digital streaming business. It was a joint venture. Is there an expert I can meet with to understand how you run HBO Go?
Yeah.
And your digital business behind it. So they go, meet with John.
Huh.
So I met this guy. I'm like, wait a minute, I've never heard of HBO Latin America. It was so small and off the radar. No one even knew it existed.
It's different shows, or they're not just
well, it was a joint venture, and I forget at the time. It was a joint venture. Like Sony maybe had a stake. Like all these other companies that were typically competitors actually joined this joint venture
to be HBO.
To represent HBO brand in Latin America.
Okay,
right. So I met with him, and I'm like, oh, this is what I want. I didn't know this happened. I want to do HBO in Miami. So I looked for a job. There was only one job advertised online, and it was like director of something within the finance department. I'm like, okay, I don't want to do that, but I have an MBA. I can probably, get an interview. So it's like my goal is, how do I get an interview? How do I get on site? And then figure out what the right job is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And in New York City, it's like very hard to even step into office. Like the first interview process is phone.
Yeah.
Right. Phone screening. Right. You're not coming into the office until we do phone screening. Right. And it's probably you're on the recruiting side.
Yeah.
Probably the recruiter screens first, then someone on talent acquisitions within the company screens, and then if you're okay, you get into the office. So, they called me back and they go, oh, we're interested because you work for HBO in New York. Yeah. And they're like, oh, we see you're remote though. Can you do a phone call interview? I go, you know what? I'll be there tomorrow in Miami because I was traveling to Miami every week to visit my wife. And I was like, can I stop by the office? They go, okay, come into the office. Wow. Very different culturally, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I go in the office, I meet with the CFO, and he goes, yeah, I mean, you could do this job, but you're a tech guy. And he goes, hey, we're trying, same story, we're trying to launch digital business. If you should meet with our CTO. He's not here. He's traveling internationally. We're going to pass your phone along. He'll give you a call back. And I was like, oh shit, this might die.
Yeah.
Right. So I wait, weeks go by, nothing. Several weeks later, I got a call from CTO. He goes, yeah, we have no digital business. We don't have a department. We don't have anybody hired. You'd be the first hire. Can you help me form a resume? What would a resume look like? Wow. So we kind of like spitball back and forth, like what would the job function be?
Yeah.
And it took like 6 months from that initial call
to
them getting budgeted and figuring out the role. And I was kind of like the first hire to spearhead that digital side of the business from within technology.
And so their headquarters, so HBO Latin America headquarters is down here.
Yeah, in Miami. Yeah.
Wow.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm still amazed. I just figured it was a subdivision of HBO, but it's
right. Yeah,
it's a totally separate company. They just have an interest in it.
Yep. So all the international ventures were joint ventures. Mm. So I partner with New York to borrow technology there, and I started partnering with the other one was HBO Europe at the time. So now I'm focused on LATAM, but I'm now partnering with development teams in Europe, development teams in New York. Pretty cool scenario. A lot more opportunity business-wise in Latin America and overseas because they don't have that long history, right? There's a long history of relationships with the operators, cable operators, satellite providers, et cetera. So there was always like, we don't want to rock the boat with our core business, right? So they were very afraid to make bold moves with digital products.
There's still a cash cow.
Right. The cash, there was like, we don't want to impact the cash cow. So we had an ad-supported business for HBO which you didn't have in the United States.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool right off the bat. And we had Cinemax. So I helped them launch Cinemax, HBO Go. And then we had the ad and non-ad supported version of Cinemax. Right. And then what's even cooler is I had an idea to take some of the linear model, because HBO used to offer services to competitors, like give us our assets, we can help transcode them, we'll broadcast them, the signal out in the air, we'll offer creative services, marketing, we have the relationships. And I was like, well, what if we offered that in the digital side? What could we do on the digital side? So what if we controlled the onboarding process from a product perspective? You come into the platform, you register, you sign up, right? We can control piracy, right? How many streams you're running. So we started offering that service to competitors that weren't in the market.
Oh, wow.
So Sony wanted to go into the market, for instance, right? Other companies, and like, okay, now we're a B2B business.
Yeah.
Right? So that opportunity is like, look at the product portfolio now that we're able to run like any other company. Yeah.
Yeah. So you spun off like basically those services you were
What we were
HBO.
like, Amazon built the cloud and then figured what they built they could sell to other companies. Like we already built this for Go. We can now sell this to other companies that want to get a streaming app.
Yeah. And it's a no-brainer for
market.
them because like, hey, you could spend all this money to catch up.
Right.
Trust us, it's a lot. Or you could just license this from us.
Yeah, exactly. So it was a licensing model basically.
Wow. Okay. So then where does that take us?
So I was at HBO for about 10 years. And so a slew of all kinds of different products. Then we're entering the phase of huge acquisitions and multi-conglomerates, right? And this isn't only, my industry has gone through a huge like swallowing of companies and brands. So many different potential buyers over several years. Eventually AT&T made the move and said, we're buying all of HBO, domestic and internationally. So it was a long transition period, but then my job was like, well, how do we merge into AT&T? How do we shut down what we're doing? And then how do we launch HBO Max? Because everybody, okay, we're getting rid of HBO Go. We're going to have something called Max. And Max is going to have all these different brands in it. And so, I spent a year transitioning, shutting down all of our existing businesses and kind of launching Max internationally.
Yeah. Because there was a Cinemax now. There was a bunch of different ones, right?
Well, they went through all kinds of crazy rebranding.
Yeah.
So
well, no, I think they've been catching a lot of heat because now it's back to HBO Go, right? Or HBO Max, right?
No, right now it's just Max. So it was
But they're
HBO Max.
aren't they changing it back? I saw.
Oh, I'm not sure where they.
Okay, I saw this week they're changing it back to HBO
that's
Max.
crazy. Yeah. But basically, so the HBO doesn't exist as a company like it did before. It's really just a brand.
Yeah.
Operating within an umbrella of AT&T. Now sold it as Discovery. Now it's Warner Brothers Discovery. Now Discovery really owns.
It's wild.
It's like acquisition after acquisition.
Yeah. Because there used to be, 10 years ago, you would have like 10 different streaming services. Now they all got swallowed up. Now you just 4, basically.
Yeah. They're all content plays, right? You hear content is king. So they're like, how do we expand our content portfolio? And it's through acquisition strategy.
Yeah. Okay. So after the AT&T acquisition, at what point does Viacom start trying to poach you?
Yeah. It was very tumultuous because acquisitions are not easy. So there's a lot of uncertainty. So there was a huge layoffs. My department was the only department in full that was kept, right? And our number one edict again was launching Max internationally, LATAM, and then Europe, APAC, EMEA, right? But they didn't know after that. There was like no uncertainty after that. So, right. So I'm like, all right, I got to the year point, launch Max. What other opportunities there? Paramount came my way, right? It was reporting up through a CTO. All right, that sounds good. The CTO was directly supporting what's more commonly now as product platform strategy. So these are like all the underlying technology that would feed consumer-facing apps, right? So we now have, like, for instance, video player engineering technology, right? All the data pipelines, all the artificial intelligence, machine learning, right? How are we building that as a platform that can now be in 5 different apps? So you have all these different consumer-facing apps that the company owns, but we have core technology behind the scene. So the front end and the skin, consumer client-facing side is different, but we have product platforms that are now consolidated systems like we now. It's really an efficiency play. How do we build one platform that can now be deployed across all the different customer touch points?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's the state of things now? Obviously, you have Paramount Plus that you're working on.
Yeah.
What's that like? Obviously, I mean, you guys have a couple big hits that are just only Paramount Plus shows, right?
So we have two core products. Paramount Plus is the subscription service, and then we have Pluto TV, which is the ad-supported platform. So kind of like a different demographic, socioeconomic demographic there. But we are trying to do a lot more cross-promotional and upsell opportunities. So we'd love to get people hooked for free on Pluto and say, hey, you can also, upsell and purchase a subscription to P Plus. And everyone in the industry is doing kind of multi-tiered, right? Ad-supported, non-ad-supported.
So
right?
Pluto is a free version of Paramount, but just ad-supported?
It started primarily as live streams. You can go in like you engage on the TV, except it's through the internet, and you can toggle between live streams, like channels. They're different curated channels of content.
Yeah.
And then it started growing that VOD library where on demand you can watch content as too. So right now you can stream through channel surf, or you can engage in content that's on demand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously, since people tend to gravitate towards things they know when they're thinking about, like, if people considering a career kind of similar to yours, what would you recommend they get into, study, and what do you see the future of your entertainment tech, basically?
Sure.
What do you see the future?
Yeah. People's backgrounds are extremely diverse. It's not like necessarily like a very clear path. And it's also depending on the function, there's nuances as well, right? So, I mean, if you're a developer or software engineer, obviously you need to have some sort of studies there, right? And it's kind of shifted, not necessarily university studies are even required. There's a lot of tech schools, even here in Wynwood, there's tech schools, so you can do like crash coursing, courses there. So that's one opportunity from like the PMO and operations standpoint. People have very diverse backgrounds. I think there's a lot of transferable skills for sure. Understanding business in general, right? Having some sort of understanding of technology domains, right? Within our technical program management function, definitely people have domains of expertise. Like maybe you have ad domain expertise, right? Maybe you have video expertise, AI, ML expertise. Like you have some sort of knowledge and or working experience or education in that. Definitely soft skills are super important. Companies are so big and they're so complex. And again, there's so many different business units you have to interact with. And system architecture is so complex. Everything is digital.
Yeah.
Every part of your business is digital. So all those systems have to talk to each other. So collaboration is key. You have to work with people from all different backgrounds and all different parts of the organization. So collaboration is key, and being able to communicate very well verbally, right? Be able to take complex concepts, be able to put that somehow on paper or visual, right? So it's a lot of different soft skills that have to come together, right? And then have some sort of, technology knowledge behind it. And I tell my team like we don't have to be developers, right? Although there's plenty of people that were developers and now they move into management or move into, program management. But you have to understand the building blocks, right? You need to understand the overall architecture, especially for the domain. And you have to understand like the product capabilities, and you need to have the terminology. Like once you have the building blocks, you understand the product capabilities, how it all fits together, you need to be able to communicate with engineering.
Yeah.
Right? Because you need to be able to talk their language, right? You need to work through problems and solutions, right? There's blockers all the time.
Of course.
Everything is a risk, right? It's just nonstop risk. So you can't resolve a risk unless you understand it.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
100%.
And it's and it's very hard to collaborate also. Like if you don't speak the language and understand, then people are going to lose faith that you're going to be able to help them, right? You need to speak their language for them to have faith you can actually help them resolve problems. Yeah.
What do you see as the next generation of the kind of now, okay, we had the streaming boom.
Yeah.
Everyone had their own service. Now there's only a few services. Where do you see the next 5 to 10 years going? And AI also. I mean, do you see AI content becoming a thing? Are people not going to want that? I mean, like, what do you think?
So, I mean, AI leaps and bounds, or machine learning week to week, month to month is changing. Right now, productivity, personal productivity, work productivity, for sure. People are using it now. That's going to greatly evolve. The way people interact with products, the way people interact with customer service, right? That whole conversational AI piece, that avatar AI piece, greatly advancing. And for sure, this, everyone has to be super involved in everything AI right now, because that's transforming the way we live and the way we work. Related to that Internet of Things, of course, every device you have is now digital, connected to the internet. So it's all going to be an ecosystem of, AI as your partner and assistant, helping you be more productive, more efficient, more creative, right? The content piece is more challenging, right? It's definitely leaps and bounds what you're able to do. It's able to replicate your likeness, right? Whether you're a poet or, whether you're an actor, whether you're a singer, right? It can easily replicate your voice, and it's just getting better and better. But I think it's going to be like a partnership between AI and humans for creativity. It's going to allow you to unlock possibilities and be able to do stuff faster and better quality more easily.
Wow. So you're pretty bullish on it helping the entertainment space rather than replacing, mass replacement, right?
Yeah. No, like every technology revolution, job functions are going to change because of it, right? Yeah. But hopefully humans can focus on higher level, more creative activities, and AI can help us focus on stuff that's less important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. This has been great, because I like, obviously, a look behind some of the favorite, platforms. I mean, things that everyone uses pretty much on a daily basis. Yeah. I like to kind of talk to people and kind of see how it works behind the scenes. So this has been great. I mean, where can people find you, John?
LinkedIn for sure. Yep. Look up me LinkedIn. You can message me directly and I'll respond.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. We'll have John's links below, so you can definitely connect with him and get some more information on the product space and kind of see what he's doing in the streaming world. And thanks so much for making this happen finally. I know we've been talking about it for a while.
Yeah. Appreciate it. Yeah. Love the invite.
Awesome, John. Thanks again. And we'll catch you guys next time.